Hey, what's up, guys? It's Dan North here of Dan North Fitness and Program Pro, and today I'm going to take you through a custom program design. A few weeks ago, I sent out an email to my mailing list asking for some information on training history, injury history, and goals pertaining either to yourself or one of your clients if you're a personal trainer. And today I'm going to walk you through how I would design a program for one of the many responses and applications that I got from that email. So let's dive right into it. So one of their clients, they used to be a high-level Irish dancer. They love hiking and walking, but do no other exercise hobbies right now, and they're an amateur to strength training. So before I kind of dive into it, these three areas are kind of three kind of key points that I like covering when I'm actually sitting down to design someone's program. I want to know what they've done in the past in terms of their training. I want to know if they have any current or pre-existing injuries that I need to be aware of, and I want to know obviously what their goals are. So those are kind of three umbrellas, if you will, in terms of what I need to know when I'm sitting down to write a program. So, like I said, they used to be a high level Irish dancer, so it tells me that they're already fairly athletic. They're not just coming off the couch, they haven't just been sitting down their whole life before this. Like, they probably have a good base and a good foundation to work with and will respond pretty well to a lot of the strength training stuff that we're going to be doing in the gym, even though they're an amateur. And the fact that they love hiking and walking on their own time, it shows me that it's going to be pretty easy for them to maintain kind of an active lifestyle. So when it comes to like maybe programming some more specific cardio routines or conditioning routines, we may not even need to worry about that given the fact that they're so active outside of the gym already, at least initially for their program. We could just focus more on the strength training side of things. In terms of the injury history, this person has some right hip issues going on, causing sharp pain when extending the leg. They're currently seen by a reputable therapist who stated to the trainer who sent me this that she just needs to start training and develop the glutes and legs. This is already a great sign in my eyes that the fact that this trainer is setting themselves up with a reputable therapist, someone who's a specialist who can help out their clients and kind of steer them in the right direction in terms of maybe some like homework that they could do on their off time, or even from a programming perspective, maybe they can help out, kind of map out which exercises maybe would be good to avoid, which exercises would be good to add into the program. So one of the big mistakes that trainers make is trying to wear too many hats and to pretend that you're something you're not. You don't want to, if you're not a therapist, if you're not an athletic therapist, physiotherapist, chiropractor, doctor, what have you, don't pretend to be one. The best thing that you can do is develop a relationship with someone who can take care of your clients, and what's going to happen is your clients are going to get better results and you're going to look like a better trainer as a result of that. So don't try to pretend to be something you're not. Try to set yourself up with someone who can help out your clients, who specializes in an area that you don't. So in terms of the goals, this person wants to feel free from hip pain. That's a great goal. They want all-round strengthening, and they want to be able to perform an unassisted push-up and pull-up. Those are all great goals. So with all that taken into consideration, let's dive into the program. In terms of like the program, I want to keep it super, super simple in terms of the layout. Usually what I would do is I would write a program in an Excel spreadsheet, but I wanted to kind of give you an idea of how I would write a program from the ground up, starting from absolutely nothing. So for the sake of simplicity and for the purposes of this program, live program design, we're just going to use a Microsoft kind of spreadsheet here that I have laid out. So let's go back to the training history of this person. They're an amateur to strength training. So what that tells me is that we don't want to start off with something that's too frequent. If we start off with trying to bite off more than we can chew, this person probably won't be able to recover optimally between training sessions. They might not have the adherence and the commitment to commit themselves to maybe a 4 or 5 day split right off the bat. So let's start slow. And usually what I do with like an amateur client or a beginner client is I'll usually start them on a 3-day split. And I love full body workouts when it comes to not just for Gen Pop clients, but especially for amateurs to strength training. I feel like full body workouts are the best approach because it allows us a greater amount of exposure to each movement pattern throughout the course of a program. So let's just say, just to keep things simple, let's say they're an amateur strength training. Used to be high level. So let's say, we'll say day one. We'll keep it, we'll just say full body for all of these. But what's going to happen and what you'll notice is that we're going to have, there's different strength training methods that you can use. There's three main strength training methods, and we go over all three of these in depth in the Program Pro certification. But the first one is max effort or even sub-maximal effort method, which means just lifting really heavy weights. There's something called dynamic effort method, which is basically lifting lighter weights but lifting them really fast so you can get more powerful and explosive. And then there's the repetitive effort method, which is lifting sub-maximal loads for anywhere between 6 to 12, 15 plus repetitions. And that's kind of like your bodybuilding style of training. So I want to keep things super simple for the purposes of this program. So what we're going to do is we're just going to, instead of calling them max effort method or dynamic effort or whatever, we're going to have a heavy day. We're going to do another heavy day. So we're going to have 2 heavy days, and the third day is going to be more of a medium. And what we're going to do basically in terms of like, these aren't all going to be the same workouts. They're going to have different kind of priorities. Speaking of priorities, priority number 1 for this person is to feel free from hip pain. So we're going to make that basically the big rock. And what I mean by the big rock is like, we're going to start each session with something that specifically targets helping this individual get free from hip pain. So that could be maybe doing some hip cars or hip mobility work towards like the beginning of the session to kind of like get them primed and ready to go for the weights. Sometimes if like, let's say like this person just needs to start training, developing the glutes and legs, according to their therapist. So like what I might do for this person is I might even like have them do like what's called a glute primer, where we pick like 2 to 3 glute specific exercises to perform at the beginning of the workouts. And I would probably do that for all 3 strength training sessions, because like if we're just doing something like that once a week, it's not enough frequency for it to add up and to create change in the body. So I might do something like expanded shuffles or monster walks, where we have a resistance band wrapped around the feet or knees, and we're doing like lateral shifts or forward and backward shifts to get the glutes primed up. I might pair that with something like side lying abductions, where we're really targeting that glute medius, and maybe even like some clamshells or side plank clamshells. I might do anywhere from 2 to 3 sets of anywhere from like 10 to 15 repetitions for each of those exercises as part of like this person's warm up. And I would probably add that in at least for two to 3 of the strength training sessions throughout the week, to just to give enough frequency for it to add up and create change over time. So with that being said, with these workouts, even though they're all full body, they're going to be different full body workouts. So full body day 1 heavy, what I might do is that since this person wants to perform an unassisted push-up and an unassisted pull-up, like yes, they want full body strengthening, but those are pretty specific goals, which are awesome because it just makes it, 1, it makes it easier to program for, and 2, it allows you to provide objective data for your client, which basically means that like, let's say after they complete the program, they can see where they started and where they are right now. And if you show your client that progression, it's like, hey, like you went from doing, barbell push-ups on an incline for sets of like 10, now you're doing like 5 bodyweight push-ups from the floor. Like, how does that make you feel? Obviously, it shows them their progression throughout the program, which creates more buy-in to your training process, and which creates raving fans for your training business. So that's super important to get as specific as you can when it comes to your clients' goals and what they want to achieve in the gym. So with that being said, they want to do an unassisted push-up and pull-up and feel free from pain. So the full body workout that we might do for day 1, we'll keep it a full body push. We'll keep it more of like, so basically what that means is that we're going to be doing like lower body pushing movements and upper body pushing movements. Keep in mind as well, it's important to know this is just one way that I might approach doing this program. It's not the only way. It might not even be the best way, because a lot of times what happens is I'll map out a program initially, I'll take the client through the first week or two of the program. I'll see that things really aren't working out as I had hoped, or we might need to make certain adjustments to the program. So it's important to kind of understand that, like, even though I'm writing this out, this is what I feel would be optimal right now, but it might not be optimal long term. So let's just say full body push day 1. We'll do full body pull on the day 2. You'll notice that there's a rest day in between each strength training session to allow for optimal recovery. Wouldn't really want to do back-to-back training days if we're doing a full body split. And then the medium session, the third session, will be a combination of push-pull. So with that being said, let's get into the actual workouts. So full body push day 1, this person wants to, like I said, they want to be able to do an unassisted push-up and an unassisted pull-up. Since they were a high-level Irish dancer in the past, they probably have decent mobility. They probably have decent coordination. They're probably not a complete, even though they're a quote-unquote amateur to the gym, they're probably not an amateur in the sense where they've done absolutely fuck all their whole life in terms of physical activity. So they probably have a decent base. So let's say for the full body push, I do prefer single leg movements for the most part for people. So what we'll do here is let's start off A1 as either a split squat or a rear foot elevated split squat. Let's say we start this person off on the split squat and it's just too simple for them, and you feel that they have the ability to progress to a rear foot elevated split squat or a Bulgarian split squat. We'll do that. So let's start off rear foot elevated split squat. We'll do week 1, we'll do 3 sets of 5, and I'll kind of like map out the weekly progression as we continue here. And then we're going to superset that. A2, what we'll do is maybe we'll do barbell push-ups. And barbell push-up, we're going to have them put the barbell set up at a height that really challenges them to do a set of 5, but their form shouldn't break down. So we don't want them going to complete failure. We want them going to technical failure. And what that means is that by the end of this set, they're pushing hard enough where they can't complete any more perfect repetitions. So we'll start off with 3 sets of 5 for each of these. We're going to pair them. So that'll be the first superset for the full body push. And what's going to happen is, since this person has some hip stuff going on, based on what this therapist prescribes from a recovery standpoint or like a mobility standpoint or whatever, what we might do is we might take one of those drills, depending on how frequently the therapist wants this person to perform it, and we might perform it as like a filler movement. So like while the client is resting between sets of the split squat and sets of the barbell push-up, they might do the split squat for 5 each side, and they might go ahead and do push-ups for a set of 5, and then as an active recovery, they might do a hip car routine or hip mobility routine or what have you. So just to kind of keep that in mind, just to kind of sprinkle in more of the drills that the therapist recommends to the client. So from there, what we'll do is B1, we might do, let's say, we might do like a landmine hang squat. We might go from like a single leg movement to a bilateral movement. And you might be asking yourself, we might do like maybe like 3 sets of 8, let's say. And then B2, we might pair that with a dumbbell floor press. So you might be wondering, like, why are we doing push-ups before we're doing the floor press? Reason being is it goes back to the priority, right? The priority is to perform an unassisted push-up and an unassisted pull-up. So I want to make that a priority by doing it first in the workout when the client is strongest and freshest. It's like when you sit down, eat dinner as a kid, and your parents make you eat your veggies before anything else. Like that's like kind of the same thing. Or dinner before dessert, same idea. If it's a priority, we're going to make it a priority by doing the most important and complex exercises at the beginning of the workout, with the like least important and least complex workouts or exercises towards the end of the workout. We might do that for 3 sets of 8. I'll explain kind of the rep ranges too after, as we kind of go through this program. And then let's say for C, For some of like the accessory stuff, we might do kind of like a tricep focus exercise, or maybe like an upper back focus exercise. We want to keep it like push focused. So to do push-ups, you got to have strong triceps. So we might do something like dumbbell floor extensions for like, 2 to 3 sets of 10. We might pair that with a single leg hip thrust, as pertaining to the therapist orders. We got to strengthen the glutes, so we're gonna do like a lower body pushing movement for the glutes, working on that hip extension. Keep in mind too, one thing that was noted is there's some right hip issues causing sharp pain when extending the leg. I'm assuming what this trainer means is that when their client extends their hip, they get a little bit of pain. That could be, I've never met this person, I have no idea, so I'm not their therapist. So what I would recommend this trainer to do is to take this client through a very thorough assessment, see what exercises specifically aggravate the hip, and kind of like auto-regulate the program as you go. You want to substitute out any exercises that cause unnecessary pain or aggravation and sub them in for exercises that feel good. So that's day one. Okay, let's write out the other 2 workouts, and then I'm gonna explain kind of the idea behind the rep ranges after that. Okay, so let's say it's full body pull. This will be more of like a heavy day where we're doing a little bit lower rep ranges and a little bit more intensity towards the beginning of the workout. So what we might do here is that they want to do an unassisted push-up and pull-up. So we might do either a chin-up or pull-up eccentrics. This person said pull-ups. Pull-ups are obviously like a pronated grip, a wide grip. Chin-ups are more of like the supinated or neutral. I personally, if I'm training clients, I like neutral grip chin-ups, because what that does is that when your clients are in an overhead position, it sets them into external rotation of the shoulder. Usually feels better than an overhead position for most people. It eliminates a lot of like elbow pain that is commonly, or even shoulder pain that is commonly associated with doing chin-ups and pull-ups for clients. But with that being said, like if this person has great mobility, they want to be able to do pull-ups, you can do that too. It doesn't necessarily matter as long as you're focusing on what's best for the client. So we might do pull-up eccentric. Depending on the client's, so what that means basically is like you're gonna you could either have a bench or box set up below a chin-up bar, and your client's basically gonna hop up. You can give some assistance to your client's gonna hop up to the top of the chin-up, and they're gonna slowly lower themselves as slow as they can go until their arms are fully extended and they're fully locked. They're gonna hold that bottom for like a 2-second count, and then they're gonna repeat that process. You're only focusing on the eccentric or the lowering part of the movement. And that actually kind of reminds me of something. What we want to focus on throughout the first phase of this person's program is we might want to focus more on slow eccentrics for the majority of the exercises, because what you'll find when someone is an amateur to strength training is they have no body awareness. Like if you've taken a beginner through an assessment, you've definitely noticed this. If you ask someone to do like an overhead squat or just a body weight squat, and they just start plopping up and down and basically twerking, like they have no body control or awareness at all. So slowing down the eccentric phase of these movements allows your clients to really dial in on their technique and to really understand firsthand how to feel themselves out through certain positions, what optimal technique feels like and looks like, which muscles should be working during the movement, and allows for greater time under tension. So there's a lot of pluses for focusing on slower eccentrics for the majority of the exercises in the initial phases of a beginner's programs. And that might last anywhere from 3 to 5 or 6 weeks or so. So with that being said, the first exercise of the day 2, it's a full body pull. We're going to do pull-up eccentrics. I might do 3 sets of 3 reps where I get them to try to lower themselves for a 5 second count each repetition, or a 3 second count, anywhere from like 3 to 5 second lowering per repetition is gonna be gravy. So let's say like 3 to 5 second. I can't spell lowering. There we go. And then what we'll do is we'll pair that with like a lower body pull. So we did a full body pull. Now we're going to be doing more of like an upper body pull. We're going to be doing more of a lower body pulling movement. And what that means is basically the most popular lower body pulling movement obviously is the deadlift. But I wouldn't really want to pair that with a pull up or a chin up, because if this person is an amateur to strength training, and even if they're not an amateur to strength training, if you're pairing a pull up with the deadlift, there's a couple things that happen. One, your grip is going to go, especially someone who's an amateur who has maybe a weak grip already, who hasn't strengthened their forearms and their grip strength. Like if you do a pull up and then you go to try to lift like a heavy barbell or trap bar or whatever, or even like a heavy kettlebell, like your grip is going to fatigue and it's going to affect both movements, and you're not going to get as much out of each movement as you potentially could. So also, each of these movements use similar muscles. So like even though you're not necessarily using your lower body during the chin up, in the deadlift, your lats and your mid back muscles are super important to support that deadlift, and they're going to be fatigued if you're pairing it with a pull up or a chin up. So I'd rather focus on a lower body pulling movement that doesn't incorporate the upper body or the grip necessarily at all. So I say pulling, but what we're gonna do is we might pair that with a barbell hip thrust. We might do like 3 sets of heavy sets of 5, and technically you're pushing with your legs, but it's working the posterior chain. It's predominantly working your glutes. Obviously you're going to get a little bit of quad action as well, but if we're really dialing in right, it's going to really hammer those glutes. So we might do like pull up eccentrics, 3 sets of 3. Each repetition will be about a 3 to 5 second lowering, and we'll pair that with a barbell hip thrust. The B portion of the workout, what we might do is we might focus on some like overhead pulling movements to help support and strengthen that chin up goal and that pull up goal. So what we might do is, just maybe a basic lat pull down, or like a half kneeling cable pull down, something, or even like a heavy pullover, something that focuses on pulling from overhead and really strengthening those lats and those muscles used in the chin up. And we'll keep it about maybe 3 sets of 8. Okay, nothing groundbreaking here, just focusing on good quality movement. We might pair that in with like that upper body movement, pulling movement. We'll pair with like a lower body pulling movement, maybe something more hamstring focused. I like prioritizing the posterior chain for most people, especially just Gen Pop clients, meaning the back of the body. So we might do maybe Swiss ball, leg curls, 3 sets of 8. And again, we're focusing on like slow eccentrics for both of these as well. So we might do like a 3 to 4 second eccentric for both of these movements. So like a lat pull down as you straighten your arms, focusing on creating as much tension in those lats on your way up. For the leg curl, as you straighten your legs, focusing on keeping tension in the hamstrings as you straighten that leg with a good slow controlled motion. If this leg curl variation is too easy for your client, we would simply switch it to a Swiss ball single leg curl. So like basically having only one foot on the Swiss ball and then curling the ball in and out just creates so much more fucking tension on the hamstrings as you're doing that. If that's too advanced for your client, but doing it with both feet is too easy for your client, a step in between that would just be to do slider leg curls. And that's basically when we have slider discs on the turf or some surface where you can like basically use the sliders, and you're curling your legs in and out with both feet at the same time. That as well just creates so much tension in the hamstring. So either basically just figure out what works best for your client based on their current capabilities right now and where they're at. And then to finish off the full body pulling workout, We might do something that's a little bit more upper back focused. So we might do some pull apart variation or like a face pull variation or high rows or something to that nature. So let's say might do face pulls for about 2 to 3 sets of 10, and then we might pair that with maybe something like a, let's think for a second. Let's put our thinking hats on for a second. This person, what's this to push up and pull up, blah, blah, blah. So we can do one of two things. We can do either more of a glute and hamstring focused movement, or we can do something that targets the lats again, that kind of help out that pull up goal. So what we might do, maybe face pull, and either if we're focusing on the upper body, we'll do it with a straight arm pull down, or we're focusing on, like, you could do like any kind of that grip attachment that you want. I prefer using the rope or straight bar, and or even doubling up the rope so you get more range of motion for those lats. Keeping your arms straight, pulling the cable down, and really squeezing those lats and keeping tension as much as possible. Or if we want to do something that's even like maybe a little bit more core focused, we can do something like a dead bug variation or something along that nature. So that's the full body pull workout. And then now we've got the 2 heavy sessions, the push and the pull, taken care of. Let's kind of dive into the medium session, or the push pull session. So what we'll do here is we'll start it off with a lower body push. And I like doing sled work. I like doing sled work on the medium days or the lighter days, because pushing the sled, it's awesome for work capacity. It's a great way to strengthen your legs one leg at a time. It helps with like ankle mobility. If you don't believe me, just watch any of the knees over toe guys stuff. Like, he uses the sled a lot in his programs. The thing that's really helpful with sleds too, doing it on a medium day, is that it's not super taxing on your nervous system, and it's not super taxing on your joints or your muscles. Reason being is because it's a concentric only movement. So what that means is that when you're doing, let's say you're doing a squat, you've got the eccentric phase, which is the lowering phase, and the concentric phase, which is the upward phase. That puts a lot of good damage on your muscles, but it puts a lot of damage and wear and tear on your muscles. So it takes longer to recover from a heavy squat session than it does from a heavy sled session, because the only direction you're going with sled work is forward. So your muscles are only working concentrically to push that sled forward. So your muscles and your joints recover more efficiently. So since it's less taxing and it takes less recovery, it's a good idea to usually put it on like the medium session or the lighter session of the training split. So we might do sled push. We might do it for like 20 yards or so, or like we might even like count like the foot strikes. So if you want to count like the strides your client is pushing, you might do like sled push like 10 strides per leg or so. That's just one of many ways to kind of do it. You might prefer measuring distance as well, where your client's just kind of going there and back 1 to 2 times depending on the length of the turf. So we got a lower body push. We're going to pair with an upper body push. Let's go back to our goal, right? Big goal is that unassisted push up. Let's pair it with a close grip push up, and we'll do it from the barbell still. So we'll do like a barbell close grip push up, maybe 8 to 10 reps or so. And I like doing multiple types of grips, like wide grips, close grips, standard grips when it comes to benching, push-ups, or what have you, just to create greater strength in multiple angles, right? So, and I like if the goal is to be doing like an unassisted push-up, let's do it more frequently than once a week so we get more exposure. So instead of just practicing push-ups once a week, in a month or in 4 weeks, it's going to be 4 practices, right? If we do it twice in a week, in 4 weeks, it's going to be 8 practices. I can't remember where I heard this analogy, but I love the analogy where, like, let's say you are trapped in prison for 30 days, you get told that the only way that you're allowed out of your cell on the 30th day is if you're able to do 100 push-ups consecutively in one set. And think about that for a second. Are you going to be practicing push-ups once a week? Are you going to be doing it twice a week? Or are you going to be like practicing like every fucking day to make sure that you get out of that fucking cell? Obviously, that's an extreme example, but it allows us to kind of understand that like a greater amount of frequency throughout the training week just allows us more repetitions, more practice, more exposure, more opportunity for our clients to get better at the movement that they're trying to get better at. So just keep that in mind when you're trying to work towards a specific goal with your clients. So we're gonna double up on these push-ups. You could even do the same thing with the pull-ups. I like kind of sticking to one main sort of like upper body priority and one main lower body priority. So like for this one we'll keep it the push-up. So we've got two pushes, lower body push and an upper body push. We might do more of like a lower body pull. Now we might do something like a dumbbell RDL. We might pair that with something like, let's go back. So they're a high level Irish dancer. So I would be amazed if they don't have decent balance and coordination. So let's try throwing a bird dog row. So bird dog row, you've got one hand and one knee on the bench. You're rowing with your back leg up in the air. It's a great back exercise, but it's a great anti-rotational and anti-extension core exercise at the same time as well. We've got a lower body pull and an upper body pull paired together. Boom. Okay. And now let's go to C. For C, what we might do, we can go two directions here. Direction one, we might do like a burnout set or like a finisher, focusing more on the glutes and the lower body. Couple of reasons we might do that. One, the therapist said that she just needs to start training, developing the glutes and legs, so that's a priority. We might use that as like a finisher on the Friday. And like, let's be honest, most women want to focus on their glutes and train their lower body. Obviously, it's not the case for every single woman. I understand that, but like if this client wants to focus on their lower body as well, plus it complements what their therapist recommended for them in their program anyways, we might do like a glute focused burnout. So that might be something like, we might do like banded bridges where we're like kind of wrapping the we have the hip circle band around our knees and we're performing bridges up and down, just focusing on dialing those glutes. We might do like a pyramid where we're doing 20 the first set, 15 the second, 10 the third, and then down to 5. And we'll pair in between each set of those. We might pair that with banded abductions where we've got the hip circle band still around the knees. So after we do 20 bridges, we're bringing our hips up and down. On that 20th rep, we might keep our hips up, keep them up the entire time, and as they're up, pushing our knees in and out and focusing on abductions, really dialing in on those glutes. And then we might do like 20 bridges, 20 abductions, 15 bridges, 15 abductions, 10 10, 5 5. Guys, I tell you, holy fuck, I've done this before. Personally, I've done this with my clients. It's a crazy burnout for your glutes. That might be the glute focused one. Or if we want to keep it more upper body focused and kind of dial in on, maybe we might dial in on like the triceps or the pull apart. Something that I've done in the past as well is I've done like banded. This will help with the push-up goal too, because we're really hammering those triceps, which are like the key supportive muscles in the push-up. So we might do like banded tricep push downs. So we got a resistance band or two resistance bands. We're focusing on like extending our arms and pumping as much blood as we can to those triceps. We might do that with either a light weight on the cable pulley system with 2 ropes, or we might do it with like a resistance band looped around the squat rack. We might do 100 total reps. We might pair it with band pull aparts for 100 total reps. And what I will often do is, if I'm getting a client to do 100 total reps, I might say you've got to get 100 total push downs or 100 total band pull aparts in no more than 4 total sets each. So what that means is that they might do like 25 tricep push downs, 25 pull aparts, and go back to another 25 tricep push downs and another 25 pull aparts until they hit 100 of both. They could do 30 and 30, they could do 40 and 40. They could divide it as however they want, but I want them to complete 100 of each in no more than 4 total sets. So that's an amazing upper body burnout as well. So you kind of have your pick of the litter when it comes to like the burnouts. Be flexible when it comes to the finishers. Like we go over that in great detail in the Program Pro certification, is how to program finishers specifically for your clients to help them not just achieve their goals, but to leave the gym on a high and feeling good and feeling that they got one step closer to achieving them. So we've got the workouts kind of mapped out right now. Let's kind of zoom out a little bit and discuss kind of like the method to the madness here. So one thing I would recommend you do when you're programming is the first thing that you should consider, even though we didn't do it here technically, because I want to kind of like talk about the idea of like the exercises and whatnot, but the first thing you should consider when you're writing a program is repetitions. And the reason you want to focus on repetitions first is because in terms of training variables, there's like reps, there's sets, volume, intensity, exercise selection, exercise order. In terms of all those variables, repetitions are the one variable that dictate all other training variables. So what that means is that if you know how many reps you're doing or how many reps your client is doing, you'll know which exercises they should be doing for that rep range. The exercise order, what the order of the exercises, if your client is doing like sets of 5 or 10 or 15 or whatever, you're going to know where to kind of place it in the workout. You're going to know the training intensity based on that rep range. You're going to know the volume based on that rep range. So repetitions dictate all other training variables. So like that should be number one. And something I do with my personal clients and I show also in depth in Program Pro is to basically how to map out like a 12-month program for your clients, just starting off with the repetitions. So first thing, priority number one, focus on the repetitions. For the 2 heavy days, we're focusing on like sets of like 5 repetitions or so. And the goal for the first, let's say 4 weeks at least, if we're following this whole kind of routine here for like a 4-week phase, we're focusing on building volume throughout that 4 weeks. So each week what we might do for like, let's say like the split squats is we might do 3 sets of 5 for the first week, then we might do sets of 6 the second week, sets of 7 the third week, and then sets of 8 the fourth week. Using the same load that we did on week 1, we're just focusing on adding volume by increasing it by a repetition at a time each week, okay? Same idea with the barbell push-ups. You can do one of 2 things here. If you're doing 3 sets of 5 for barbell push-ups and you want to keep this a heavy day, you could use the same protocol that you did for the split squats where you're adding a repetition every week. You're going from 5 to 8 over the course of a 4-week phase. Or what you can do is that you can keep the barbell set at the same height. So like what basically the progression from 5, 6, 7, 8, you would keep it at the same height every week, but you would add a repetition, you would do more. Or what you can do, something that I found really beneficial for my clients doing it on like the heavy day, is that we'll stay in the 5 rep range for all 4 weeks, but we're going to lower the barbell just a little bit lower, maybe a notch lower every single week. We're going to like increase that intensity in that rep range. And then on the last set, so like on the 3rd set, we might do like an AMRAP set, meaning that they're going to go as many reps as they possibly can. So like to figure out the height, the optimal height for those push-ups and the barbell push-up, we're going to basically it's a feeling out process. At first, we're going to see what height is good for them to do a solid set of 5 that's making them work hard, but not so hard to the point where their form is breaking down. And when we found that sweet spot, we'll say, okay, we're going to do 2 sets here for 5. And then on this third set, I want you to bang out as many as you can. Let's say they get like 7 on week 1. We record that in their program. On week 2, when we go back to this workout, we'll do the same thing. On set 3, I'll say, hey, we're going to do as many reps as you can, but you've got to beat 7 reps. So your goal is to get at least 8 repetitions. And we want that AMRAP set to be higher and higher each week throughout the course of, let's say, like maybe a 4-week phase. So that's really helpful. Okay, so goal, the priority is to like add volume throughout the thing. So we might do the same thing with the pull-ups, or sorry, let's stay on day 1. For these guys here for B, we might stay in the 8 rep range or so. It doesn't need to be exactly 8 reps, but we might stay in the 8 rep range, and we might add like 1 repetition every week. We go 8, 9, 10, 11, 8, 9, 10, 11 for both of these guys here. One thing I wanted to actually know quickly, the reason I chose landmine hang squats for this client is they have right hip issues, cause sharp pain when extending the leg. The reason I chose a landmine hang squat, and a landmine hang squat is when we've got like just a landmine kind of like barbell hanging between the legs with a good wide stance. The way the landmine works is the way the strength curve works is that as you reach the top of the squat, since the barbell is on a swivel, the strength curve, the resistance technically gets a little bit lighter as you reach that top portion of the squat. And since when our hips are fully extended at the top of the squat, it's going to put a little bit less pressure and a little bit less onus on the squats at the top of that squat motion when we're using the landmine, since that barbell is on like a swivel. So there's a little bit less tension towards the top of the squat, and that's when our hips are fully extended. So I want to put the least amount of pressure on the hips as we can for a squat motion. So it doesn't even need to be a hang squat. It could, or a landmine hang squat. We could use like a belt squat where we've got like a belt and we got a couple of plates hanging in between. Your client is set up on 2 like plyo boxes or something stable, and they're able to go through a full range of motion squat as well. So that's kind of like the thought process that I had when it came to the landmine hang squat. And we might, with that being said, like we might get this person to do it. They might feel like dog shit when doing it. We'll say, okay, let's forget about that. Let's sub it out for something else that feels better, that doesn't cause any pain on the hips. Okay, so the full body pull, same idea in terms of like, let's stick with the volume for a second. So in terms of volume, right, for the eccentric, we might do a 3 to 5 second lowering each repetition. We might add a rep every week, so it might be like 3 on week 1, then 4, then 5, and then 6, doing a 3 to 5 second lowering every time. Or what we could do is like, we can like, you might even do like 1 or 2 reps, but do like a really slow lowering, like a super slow lowering, like 15 to 20 second lowering or something. It kind of, you can go either way. I like doing multiple repetitions because it gives the client a chance to kind of understand and feel out the movement as well. Same thing with the barbell hip thrust. As we progress, we'll add a rep every week, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'll usually get my clients to pause for a 2-second count at the top of the movement, especially when they're first learning it, just to kind of give them an idea on how it feels and how it really feels to kind of like use their glutes for the movement. Progression here, I'm not going to repeat myself too much, but same idea. Like, we're just focusing on building volume over the course of the 4 weeks throughout the initial phases of the beginner's program, as well as focusing on slow eccentrics for the movements as well. So that's the thought process behind how I would design from the ground up a custom program for a client with this specific training history, injury history, and goals. Usually, like, honestly, writing something like this would usually take me, it doesn't take long, maybe 20 to 30 minutes or something. It doesn't take too long. The reason it took a little bit longer for this, hopefully I didn't bore you to death, was just I wanted to kind of explain the thought process behind everything and how I would kind of go about doing it and why I chose certain training methods. So like I said, we've got 3-day split. We've got 2 heavy. Day 1 and day 2 are both heavy. Day 3 is more of a medium, and that's just a very simple way of saying we're doing more submaximal effort training methods for day 1 and day 2 with a little bit more repetitive effort method on day 3, or we could even use like dynamic effort method where we're focusing maybe more on like plyo jumps or something like that. But either way, don't overthink it. This is kind of how I would map out a 3-day split for that person. I'd usually follow this routine. I like 4-week phases for beginners because 4 weeks allows enough time to see progression on a weekly basis from workouts, but it's not so long where they're going to get bored of the workouts. So 4 weeks is usually a good sweet spot for beginners, and this is how I do it. So if you liked it, let me know in the comments. Give this a like, subscribe to the channel, and then let me know if there's any other kind of programs that you'd want me to kind of design from the ground up and you would like to see. Okay? Thanks for watching, guys.